My people, how you doing? Do you like me? I like you. Thank you very much for stopping by. You are very much appreciated. Well, you know this guy? This guy right here? Volodymyr Zelensky is the Ukrainian president. Well, he's just asked to speak to African president on a video conference. And African president said no. They are not interested. They didn't say it's openly, but they kind of, just, nah, I'm busy. I got too many people with HIV. I need to deal with them. Or I got too many people with TB. I need to take care of them. Yeah. So basically, the president of Ukraine had a discussion with Moussa Faki Mahatma. This is the African Union Commission president. He asked him to ask African president to have a video conference with him. You know what's happening right now. And African presidents are not very keen about it. The African Union seemed to be divided over an invitation to Volodymyr Zelensky. The Ukrainian president was invited by the president of the EU Commission to address African heads of state by video conference during the summit, which begins on Saturday, 15th February. But the initiative provoked an outcry. So, first of all, Moussa Faki Mahatma. This guy is very interesting. A while back, he self-invited, without consulting anybody. He invited Israelis to come and be observers in the African Union. This man invites Israel to come and be observer in the African Union. And the question many people ask, who is observer in Israel? Why would you bring somebody from some other place to come and be observer in African issues? And you know what happened on that day? South Africa's commission stood up and said, no, the Israeli team of people sitting there as observer must leave the room. This was the man that brought them, Moussa Faki Mahatma. Well, he's been there for quite some time, since 2001 as the chairperson, and the term ends in 2025, where he's going to be replaced by the current president of Angola. Zelensky has asked this guy to ask African president to come into a video conference so they can talk. A little bit like, okay, so I'm the important guy here. Call those other dudes so they can come on a video conference to talk to me. A little bit like what you see with your boss, right? Okay, everybody, video conference with the boss. This is not the first attempt since Russia's invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago. Zelensky has been working to strengthen his diplomatic ties with African countries and is pleading to take part in the annual African summit. But since the later, a rebellion has been organized to the point that the speech could be abandoned. Zelensky has a speech to African president. Now let's see why African presidents may not be very keen to speak to Zelensky. When the war started between Russia and Ukraine, Africa sent a couple of people, I think about 4 presidents. There was Cyril Ramaphosa, there was the Senegalese president, and few other presidents. They all went to Ukraine and then to Russia, trying to find a solution for them. African presidents, as usual, like most Africa like to do, get involved in other people's problem, went to Ukraine then Russia, trying to say, hey fellas, stop fighting each other. Guess what happened? If you look at the video of Zelensky meeting African president and you compare with the video of Putin meeting African president, look at the difference. You can clearly see that Putin was being friendlier to African president than Zelensky. And I'm not saying Zelensky did that knowingly, or maybe he was just stressed, his country is at war, he's just been attacked, and maybe, you know what I mean. There was a Ukrainian diplomat that said something along the lines, and I'm not quoting him. He said, African presidents cannot come here trying to resolve the issues between Russia and Ukraine. This is well beyond their level. Okay? They're just here looking for food. They are begging for food. That's what they said. Say they're here to beg for food.
The African delegation had no goal for settling the conflict or finding a solution. Obviously, this is not their task. It's not on their level or their competency. They just want to be on the information agenda and resolve their own issues, like increasing the amount of resources they receive primarily from Russia, including food supply.
So we are poor, we're looking for food.
What they had to do was that information task in favor of Russia, by saying they don't see any missile in the air, that it all was an abstraction, a fabrication. This was a primitive attempt to win at information warfare.
I mean, just imagine, Cyril Ramaphosa is begging for food. That's an insult. I mean, in Africa, if somebody says, you always come to my house to eat, I remember as a child, that was an insult. And I refuse to eat at other people's houses because they're going to say in the future that I came to eat. Now, how can you say to an African person, you came here for food, while the person clearly came to try to find a solution and bring peace? Well, in Mali, Ukrainians helped rebel kill Wagner Group and Malians. So as all of you know, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have been working with Russians. So many of the Russian soldiers have been in these countries trying to train some of these guys or work with them against rebels or terrorists, if you prefer. There was a specific moment where soldiers from Wagner were attacked and completely destroyed. And this was done by the help of Ukrainians. How do we know that? Because there was a Ukrainian person that boasted about it. As if you look at this picture, you can see behind all these are white people. These are not Arabs or anything. These are Westerners. Look at the shoes. Look at these sneakers compared to these boots. Okay, the African terrorists wearing boots, but these are the guys that are wearing sneakers. Clearly, you can see these are sneakers. These are outsourced people. This Ukrainian representative, he says, we helped the rebels destroy Wagner.
The fact that the rebels received the necessary information that allowed them to conduct a successful operation against Russian war criminals, the whole world has already seen this. In principle, this can be commented on. We certainly will not disclose any details, but let's say there will be a continuation. This is sensitive information. Therefore, everything that Ukraine does is happening within the limits and within the framework of international law, taking into account all the necessary procedures.
Now, they were boasting about destroying Wagner in Africa, but in the same token, they didn't just kill Wagner, they also killed hundreds of Malians. And shortly after that, Mali severed the relationship with Ukraine. After Mali cutting the relationship with Ukraine, Niger followed through and Burkina Faso followed through. And some Africans were not happy about that. I mean, how can you, as a foreign nation, even though you are in trouble with Russia, come into Africa, attacking Russia in African lands and unaliving people from that country? How can you be liked? I mean, why don't you wait for them somewhere there where you can find each other and finish each other? Don't you consider the fact that if you unalive people that you want support from, you're going to be hurting them? Ukraine did not provide any apology. So they were not apologetic about what they did. They just stayed quiet. They denied, but they stayed quiet. Like, okay, those poor Africans, what are they going to do against us? Now, thinking about all that, even though a lot of African countries did not come forward. I mean, just imagine you going to Europe and bombing Belgium or attacking somebody in Belgium because you hate some people that are terrorists in Belgium. Will the Belgians be happy about that? Especially if you kill some other Belgian in the same token. Will French people be happy about that? No, not at all. Now, Ukraine has tried very hard since the war against Russia. Kyiv has come closer by opening 7 new embassies in the continent in the last 2 years. But most countries plead for neutrality for fear of alienating Russia's partner. Remember, at the United Nations, they ask many African countries to vote against Russia. In the Ukraine situation, many African countries chose to be neutral. All these countries did not vote against Russia, as you can see. Most of them are African countries. And Ukraine needed a positive politic toward Africa. Just imagine, in 2 years, I mean, the war has been 3 years. And in 3 years, they've opened 7 new embassies in Africa. Now, the question some stubborn Africans will ask, where were you all this time? Why did you wait for war so you can start opening embassies in Africa? Were Africans so dark you couldn't see them back in time? Now that the bombs are bombing and the light is lighting, now it's light enough to see the Africans. It's a good question. But that's what it is, fellas. African nations are very stubborn, and also they're taking it low. Like, hey, Zelensky want to talk to you. I got issues. I got problems. I need to resolve. Oh, we have election coming. You know what I mean? And the person that's bringing him in is Mahatma, the same guy that brought in the Israelis to become observers in African issues. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure, fellas. Your first time, thank you very much. I appreciate you. This is family. Please click on the button and subscribe. YouTube say most of you guys watch videos, but you're not subscribed. Why are you not subscribed? Don't you like us? Aren't you entertained? Surely you are entertained, because this is where you get the news from Africa, from the motherland, from the continent. Unbiased, unfiltered. And we bash you from time to time. God bless. Subscribe before you go. And drop a comment. You better say something.